In this video, I'll be discussing letter 1 from Frankenstein. Frankenstein starts off with 4 letters, and then the next chapter is chapter 1, and it keeps going from there. As always, I'm probably mispronouncing some of the names, so please just bear with me. Letter 1 to Mrs. Saville, England, St. Petersburg, December 11th, 1700 and something. It doesn't tell us the exact date, we just know this is in the 1700s. Mrs. Saville, as we will find out, is the sister of the man who is writing this letter, and his name is Robert Walton. You will rejoice to hear that no disaster has accompanied the commencement of an enterprise which you have regarded with such evil forebodings. I arrived here yesterday, and my first task is to assure my dear sister of my welfare and increasing confidence in the success of my undertaking. We can learn, it can be implied that Robert Walton is from England, and he has traveled to St. Petersburg, which is in Russia. I am already far north of London, and as I walk in the streets of Petersburg, I feel a cold northern breeze play upon my cheeks, which braces my nerves and fills me with delight. Do you understand this feeling? This breeze, which has traveled from the regions towards which I am advancing, gives me a foretaste of those icy climes. Inspirited by this wind of promise, my daydreams become more fervent and vivid. I try in vain to be persuaded that the pole is the seat of frost and desolation. It ever presents itself to my imagination as the region of beauty and delight. There, Margaret, the sun is forever visible, its broad disk just skirting the horizon and diffusing a perpetual splendor. There, for with your leave, my sister, I will put some trust in preceding navigators. There snow and frost are banished, and sailing over a calm sea, we may be wafted to a land surpassing in wonders and in beauty every region hitherto discovered on the habitable globe. Its productions and features may be without example, as the phenomena of the heavenly bodies undoubtedly are in those undiscovered solitudes. What may not be expected in a country of eternal light? I may there discover the wondrous power which attracts the needle, and may regulate 1,000 celestial observations that require only this voyage to render their seemingly eccentricities consistent forever. I shall satiate my ardent curiosity with the sight of a part of the world never before visited, and may tread a land never before imprinted by the foot of man. These are my enticements, and they are sufficient to conquer all fear of danger or death, and to induce me to commence this laborious voyage with the joy a child feels when he embarks in a little boat, with his holiday mates, on an expedition of discovery upon his native river. But supposing all these conjectures be false, you cannot contest the inestimable benefit which I shall confer on all mankind to the last generation by discovering a passage near the pole to those countries, to reach which at present so many months are requisite, or by ascertaining the secret of the magnet, which, if at all possible, can only be effected by an undertaking such as mine. Again, we know this is taking place a couple of centuries ago. The beginning of his letter said the 1700s. And what can be implied by this first paragraph or so is that Robert Walton is a type of explorer. Right? He's out and about, he's going to get a ship, and he wants to go basically explore the unknown, things that people have not already discovered yet, which was quite a bit still back in that time. There are 2 main things that he is looking for on these voyages, and he hints at them throughout the paragraph and then explicitly states them in those last 3 lines or so that I read to you. He says that he wants to discover a passage near the pole to those countries. By those countries, he means Asia. So he's trying to discover basically a new passage to Asia, to reach which at present so many months are requisite, or by ascertaining the secret of the magnet. So he also wants to discover the secret of the magnet. If you think about magnets, right, you have like compasses, how do those work with the poles? And so he's trying to kind of uncover the secrets of magnetism. So those are his 2 goals for this trip that he is on. These reflections have dispelled the agitation with which I began my letter, and I feel my heart glow with an enthusiasm which elevates me to heaven, for nothing contributes so much to tranquilize the mind as a steady purpose. a point on which the soul may fix its intellectual eye. This expedition has been the favorite dream of my early years. I have read with ardor the accounts of the various voyages which have been made in the prospect of arriving at the North Pacific Ocean through the seas which surround the pole. You may remember that a history of all the voyages made for purposes of discovery composed the whole of our good Uncle Thomas's library. My education was neglected, yet I was passionately fond of reading. These volumes were my study day and night, and my familiarity with them increased that regret which I had felt as a child on learning that my father's dying injunction had forbidden my uncle to allow me to embark in a seafaring life. This is something he's always wanted to do. He has always wanted to travel and make discoveries, but he's never done it before. The most he's ever done before this voyage is read books about it in his uncle's library. These visions faded when I perused, for the first time, those poets whose effusions entranced my soul and lifted it to heaven. I also became a poet, and for 1 year lived in a paradise of my own creation. I imagined that I also might obtain a niche in the temple where the names of Homer and Shakespeare are consecrated. You are well acquainted with my failure, and how heavily I bore the disappointment. But just at that time I inherited the fortune of my cousin, and my thoughts were turned into the channel of their earlier bent. Apparently, he tried to be a poet back in the day, and it didn't work out for him. So now he is trying the career of an explorer, which is kind of nerve-wracking, though, because he doesn't have any experience. He's never been a sailor. He was a poet for a while. And now he wants to go up into the Arctic and discover all these passages and so forth. It's a little scary because he doesn't have any real-world experience. 6 years have passed since I resolved on my present undertaking. I can, even now, remember the hour from which I dedicated myself to this great enterprise. I commenced by enduring my body to hardship. I accompanied the whale fishers on several expeditions to the North Sea. I voluntarily endured cold, famine, thirst, and want of sleep. I often worked harder than the common sailors during the day and devoted my nights to the study of mathematics, the theory of medicine, and those branches of physical science from which a naval adventurer might derive the greatest practical advantage. Twice I actually hired myself as an undermate in a Greenland whaler and acquitted myself to admiration. I must own I felt a little proud when my captain offered me the second dignity in the vessel and entreated me to remain with the greatest earnestness. So valuable did he consider my services. He has, for the past 6 years, been practicing some for this expedition, and he has taken little minor ones. Mostly, though, he's read a lot of books. But this will be the first time that he is in charge of something. And now, dear Margaret, do I not deserve to accomplish some great purpose? My life might have been passed in ease and luxury, but I preferred glory to every enticement that wealth placed on my path. Oh, that some encouraging voice would answer in the affirmative. My courage and my resolution is firm. My hopes fluctuate, and my spirits are often depressed. I'm about to proceed on a long and difficult journey, the emergencies of which will demand all my fortitude. I am required not only to raise the spirits of others, but sometimes to sustain my own when theirs are failing. This is the most favorable period for traveling in Russia. They fly quickly over the snow in their sledges. The motion is pleasant and, in my opinion, far more agreeable than that of an English stagecoach. The cold is not excessive, if you are wrapped in furs, a dress which I have already adopted, for there is a great difference between walking the deck and remaining seated motionless for hours, when no exercise prevents the blood from actually freezing in your veins. I have no ambition to lose myself on the post road between St. Petersburg and Archangel. I shall depart for the latter town in a fortnight or 3 weeks, and my intention is to hire a ship there, which can easily be done by paying the insurance for the owner, and to engage as many sailors as I think are necessary among those who are accustomed to the whale fishing. So his goal is to go from St. Petersburg, Russia, to Archangel, another town in Russia. They are like about 783 miles from each other. Today, it would take 16 hours to drive between the two. So back then, it would take a little bit more time, depending on how you travel there. Let's see. I do not intend to sail until the month of June. And when shall I return? Ah, dear sister, how can I answer this question? If I succeed, many, many months, perhaps years, will pass before you and I may meet. If I fail, You will see me again soon or never. So here we have Robert Walton, and he is willing to basically give up his life for his dream. He's telling his sister, I might be back, in a few weeks or a few years, or I might not never return. It depends on what I find up there. Farewell, my dear, excellent Margaret. Heaven shower down blessings on you and save me, that I may again and again testify my gratitude for all your love and kindness. Your affectionate brother, R. Walton. And as I told you previously, his first name is Robert. He is taking this voyage. He's never done anything like this before, but he wants to be an explorer and put his name on something. So he really wants to discover that new passageway to Asia, and he also really wants to discover the secrets of magnetism. And that's what this first letter does. It sets us up, it introduces him, and what his ambitions and goals are.